All right, so today we're going to jump into our altcoin show. You guys are going to like this one. It's got a lineup of all things altcoins. You're going to see Render, big news there, some Solana news, Cardano, we'll talk about that. Of course, we'll dive into Bitcoin and ETH and get all that for you guys today. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back into Tech Path. Let's get into it today. We want to thank our sponsor, that is iTrust Capital, long-term sponsor here on the channel. And if you're looking at long-term holding, one of the ways to do that is with crypto IRAs. And of course, iTrust is the place to go. So you can invest in crypto, gold, silver, all using your account. It's very simple, and it is a free application. The only thing you pay for are the trades within, which you self-direct, which is a big deal. You can also do some rollovers of your 401 or your TSP of long-term investments. This is one of the best tools out there. Again, all you have to use is our link below. You're going to get a $100 funding reward if you do decide to launch it. So it's just one of those things to help you guys out. Let's get into it today. And of course, joining me on these altcoin shows is Mr. Evan Aldo, coming again from all over the world, I feel like.
In Mexico City right now. Thanks so much, Paul, for having me. It's always a pleasure.
Good to see you, man. All right, so we're going to get into a couple things. Obviously, Evan, you had a little bit of a challenge last week in hitting the numbers, even though there was some that I will say you had some consideration. Let's jump to Bitcoin quickly. While I think since maybe we had talked last, we had Lynn Alden on the show, and Lynn actually is saying right here, Bitcoin faces considerable danger. This is an interesting statement from the Fed in 2023. Now, there's a few things that are kind of pointing to this. Whether this will translate down to pricing is a big deal, but she basically says, I expect Bitcoin bottom to be a process. Bitcoin prices are heavily tied to liquidity conditions, which we know. They have been improving. This is something that we've shown here on the show quite a bit, is that liquidity has built up a little bit. Even Jeff Ross was talking about this, that he had started pulling to a more bullish position because of the liquidity scenario. Further in the article, it says what could lie beyond that catch-up, however, is it could be less savory for bulls, is the liquidity conditions that are good right now. But once the debt ceiling issues get resolved, this is where the Treasury would be refilling its cash account, which pulls liquidity out of the system, which again goes back to the scenario of you remove liquidity, volatility starts to change. With that being the case, and by the way, though Evan may have missed the Bitcoin last week, one thing that and the reason we do this when Evan and I are going back and forth is usually we have counter positions. When we did it last week, our sentiment was dead on. And what we were showcasing was the run up on top line sentiment and the slowing right here, which told us, and which we did. If you guys are not following me over on Substack now, we have PBN3 over there, which is really opening up. A lot of new stuff over there. But the point was we made in that statement was that it was likely that we'd see a little bit of a correction for Bitcoin. It did correct down under 23. Came into 22.5. So with that being the case, what do your charts show this week on Bitcoin, now where it is holding at a little under the 23K?
Yeah, so obviously things are a little bit different than they were last week. Can't get them right 100% of the time, as you mentioned. I think the first thing that we want to look at in the Bitcoin chart here is the weekly 200 moving average. And also, like you mentioned, the Fed is going to talk, Powell is going to talk in the beginning of February. So that could kind of be a catalyst to end the rally as well. So I want to show you the 200 weekly moving average that currently sits right here at 24.7 about, 24.6 about. And this is a huge point because, look right here. This was the bottom in 2018. And this was, you didn't have enough data back here, but it was the bottom, one of the bottoms in August 2015, obviously a great place to get in. And I mean, in the pandemic drop, you came below it, but you regained it and you just came a lot higher. It's a major point. So what I think is one of two things is going to happen. One, and this is what I think is a little less likely because the Fed coming in, I think the Fed's going to prevent this. You come up here and you keep this area. And if you could keep this area without a fierce rejection, I think what you're entering is more of an accumulation phase in the end of this under this bear market. And I think you're going to look something more like this kind of area after 2015, maybe something like this, where you have more of a sideways year, sideways 2023, where you're just bouncing around, between 24K and maybe up to 35K, up to 30K. I know that's a little bit of let's not talk about 30K until we pass over 25K. Then we could talk about 30K. Nobody should be talking about 30K yet. That's how you jinx it. But the other scenario is if you see a fierce rejection off of this point, and you might, given in the next week, given when the Fed speaks, there are some catalysts and some things in the charts that could have this show us this, especially the 3 days. So I want you to look here.
Yeah.
I circled it over here, blue triangle, green dot, back in April after this rally. I mean, this was an ugly bull trap right here.
Yeah.
Very ugly bull trap. It came right down. There's a possibility. I don't know if you're going to come down that much, but there's definitely a possibility, especially with the incoming recession possibility. If the S&P 500 goes down more, which we're seeing as well, and if Bitcoin dominance, continues to really go up, you could see a pretty big correction down to maybe 12K in the next few months for a potential bottom there. That's a big point. I'm looking at the 10 to 12K. So that's still in the books. That's still in the
Interesting.
cards.
So you are feeling that the bottom is not in, and we do have okay. So there's a lot of analysts. It's almost a split contingent right now. We have analysts pointing at the bottom's not in. I would say it's about a 50-50 of many people pointing to the bottom has been in, and we'll just see some retracing. We had use go on. Aldo, etc.
Break through 25K and hold it confidently. Close a weekly candle above 25K.
That'll be the trigger.
Yeah. If we reject here or reject from 24 or 25K harshly, most likely the bottom is not in my opinion.
Yeah. I was looking at the rainbow chart. Let me kind of zoom in on this for you guys. And you'll notice here, what they're talking about here is that this is technically in the buy zone right now as it bumps out. You can kind of see that. We're going to zoom in really close. You can guys see where it comes off that floor right there, and it's moving it as. Now we have seen, you can see it right here. It didn't make it here, but it also could be very similar to this period back here in 2016-17, on the rainbow chart where it kind of
That's what I think
did that.
Look like.
Yeah, it did this little thing right here where we got a little bit of recovery and then bottomed right back out before we saw it reach all-time highs. So interesting stuff right now. I think the analysis of what we're seeing on this is intriguing around Bitcoin. I'll show you guys something too at the end around sentiment around Bitcoin. So stick around for that. Make sure and smash the like button if you guys do like these breakdowns that Evan and I do on the altcoins. We're going to move over to Ethereum. And with Ethereum, there's a few things happening. Obviously, the price has jumped a little bit over the last couple of weeks, but it's also took almost a deviation from what was happening with Bitcoin. Where are you seeing Ethereum right now in terms of the next few weeks and months?
There's a lot of important things we want to look at Ethereum right now. It's really important. First, I want to show you guys this pattern on the 2-day right here. I circled it here, here, here. What you want to look at is your blue triangle, green dot, and then the red dot. Look at that, blue triangle, green dot, and then the red dot down. We're seeing the same thing. We confirm the red dot. So, that's grounds for big corrections, possible 30% corrections. I know it is pretty harsh, but that could happen. Also, what I want to show you is on ETH Bitcoin, this is ETH versus Bitcoin right here on the weekly chart. We have a blood diamond that's going to confirm in 4 days here. Look at the last, so this time in December 2019, that was a good place to get into ETH, obviously. It outperformed Bitcoin for a while, but look at right here, and this was after the whole market bottomed out, January 2019. Ethereum bled about 50% against Bitcoin, and it looks like there's a possibility for that on the charts here. If we come down 50%, that's a technical target out of here. You come down 50% against Bitcoin. This is an excellent, excellent place to get into Ethereum towards the end of the year. And this is like 10x gains, potentially even 20x gains, huge potential gains here if you're just willing to wait 6 to 12 months. Obviously, nothing's ever 100% on the charts, but I give it, probably an 80% shot here, a very high probability here. And the last thing I want to show you on ETH, just for the more short-term, thing right here, we do have happening right now on the 4-hour is a money flow crossover back into the red right here. Look at what happened when we crossed over from red to green. Now, this was a 40% increase. I don't think we're going to crash 40% that quickly, but that could be trajectory. If February is a rough month, come down 30 to 40% in February. You're back around 1,000 towards the end of February, something like that. More of the short term, next few weeks towards the end of the month, maybe mid-February, early February, maybe right after Powell speaks and brings us down 1,300. There's a lot of big areas, 1,200, 1,300. It would be surprising to me if we're just able to hold these areas. For the very short term, next 5 days, it's possible you could come up to 1,700, but I think it's going to be a more grueling, choppy way up. We're not going to just repeat this giant, leg up.
Yeah.
It's usually not what happens.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's been a good move here recently. One thing that is kind of interesting, this is in this article that we were referencing, is ETH's latest pullback. This is looking at the 14-day, the RSI, and it's no longer overbought, which is suggesting that, hey, maybe there is some room here. When you look at sentiment on Ethereum, this was the thing that we had seen over the weekend in the pullback, which happened on Monday and Tuesday. And the top line sentiment was dipping down. This again was Friday through the weekend, and then on Monday dipping down flat, and also starting to decline on overall amplification sentiment, which is kind of the two sentiment stacks that we track. So I don't know. This is an interesting one, Evan, of how this plays out. Whether or not we see ETH get another liquidity push before the FOMC. To your point, short, very short time frame. So your theory basically is on FOMC, we'll see the 25, and you feel like the market is going to take a correction at that point?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to say. It's really hard to say, Paul. I think if we do see the 25K, that big area, the 200 weekly moving average, it's probably going to happen sometime within the next, 5 days around there, and then FOMC would bring it down. It's possible, though, the market could play games. We don't quite get there because there are some bearish signs, and we just come down before that and continue to come down. But what I think will happen is we had a big move up. It got very exciting for the past few weeks. It's probably going to be more choppy. And what we could also see is things could get volatile sideways here. You come down to 25K in the next day or two, and then you could just shoot up to 25K right before that FOMC meeting right down. I mean, things get volatile. Things get sideways, choppy, volatile.
Yeah. And you guys know this. We don't have to tell you that, these are risk assets. You're trading in a bear market, most likely. And you have to be cautious of these kind of scenarios. I mean, if you just look at the short term, this is the 4-hour. You can kind of see this move down. What is that right now? If you came off of your euphoria at 1650 and down to where we're trading right there, you've taken a 6% hit right there in a fairly short period of time from the 20th through the 25th. So these are the kind of moves that, as you guys know, crypto, this is what it's built on, these kinds of moves. A 5%, an 8, a 10 is not a drastic scenario playing into that. Let's move on to some other tokens. One, of course, is Polygon. Remember, you can get your Swoosh ID now. So it's a new digital identity on .swoosh. This is a deal all on the Polygon network. We've talked about this. We did a full video on this. Matter of fact, check it out. Go in and just search Nike Swoosh. You'll see our full breakdown of this. But the cool thing is that Nike is tying in physical and digital, which we'll see more and more of that, I think, with Nike. And it's all riding over here on Polygon. Let's take a look at your chart for Polygon as it started to perform, because this has really been a high flyer here recently.
Yeah, so Polygon is interesting to me right now. I want to take a look at kind of the 5-day, and this is an interesting pattern. So you got the blue triangle, green dot, and the 5-day right here. I'll circle it right there. That was a correction downward. We've been so sideways boring for this. I mean, it's going to have to break down, up or down, one way or the other. It's been a while, since July of 2022, just very sideways. Now, if you draw a little bit, just traditional TA, to get like a little, where are we going to end up? We're either going to break up or down. My kind of guess would be more likely, down at these levels to a retest, just because Bitcoin dominance looks so bullish. All the altcoin Bitcoin pairs keep bleeding. And look at also this. RSI is kind of split here, coming down. RSIs are splitting apart again on your 5-day right there. Also on more of the short time frames, you do have the 4-hour now crossing from green to red, just like Bitcoin. I mean, that theoretically could bring us all the way back down to where we were, 80 cents, into the end of January. If we do have another pump up, one last pump up, it would be after Powell speaks, in the first week of February to kind of come down here. And I just want to show you guys one last thing. I mean, quickly, Bitcoin dominance here just kept going up throughout this whole rally. So that means Bitcoin has been outperforming a lot of these alts. And the main thing here is if you're going to be getting into Bitcoin, and the place I am waiting to potentially get into a lot of altcoins towards the end of the year, like I showed you on Ethereum, is Bitcoin dominance at probably at least high 40s, like at least at 47, 48%, like the May 2022 high, because I think it's definitely going to go up higher. I mean, look at this monthly. div confirmed. I mean, nothing is bearish on this chart by any means.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and it's setting at 44 right now, so that's a strong one. Speaking of activity around projects, if we look at alts and how to trail these with what's happening in the Bitcoin market, these were the top 10 crypto assets by development activity. You got Polkadot on there, Kusama's on there, Cardano's on there, Decentraland. Of course, we saw some movement with Mana. S&T, we don't track that one as heavily. Cosmos, we like. Atom, Filecoin, of course, and then ICP in there. And then ETH and Concordium coming in out of the top 10. So I don't know. As far as Polkadot leading the way, and you look at, there are some price indicators kind of pointing to a potential rally. And in fact, we saw a little bit of move here recently. Your thoughts on Polkadot and where it's holding?
Yeah, I think like a lot of the other altcoins, Polkadot, a lot of good fundamentals, a lot of great things. I just want to wait to get into it. I want to wait towards middle to end of this year to get into it when Bitcoin dominance looks better, when the other things look better. What I'm looking at for Polkadot right here is if you look at all these blue triangles throughout this bear market, you're not gonna catch the exact tops in the bear market from this, but look, blue triangle, green dot, red dot, just like April, it has me a little bit worried that it could come down even lower. You could come down, make a lower low, and then bottom out around high threes in a few months from now. You could hit that point. So a little bit lower or form a double bottom pattern. Regardless, I think Bitcoin most likely outperforms it for some time. Like a lot of other things, if you look at the 3 hour here, 4 hours about to curve into the red, but very overheated. You've been in the green for a while. Look at this general pattern here. Good curvature with the money flow in the red, came up a lot, but in the same token, at the same time, the same thing could bring you all the way back down in a few weeks, theoretically. So,
right. One thing to note on Polkadot, and this is something we talk about a lot here on the channel, is when you look at the CPI data, Polkadot has been underperforming the overall. This top line right here, guys, is the average sentiment of the projects that we track. So it's the overall sentiment in all coins. And Polkadot has been, it has been slightly up, which is kind of the movement, but we saw a little bit of a dip and then a little bit of a rise here recently in the last week to 10 days. But the key here, back to Evan's point, is that it's underperforming the overall market. And anytime we start to see projects, especially in altcoins, get near market average or above it, that's an easy way to read CPI. Just say, hey, just look at the projects that are starting to hover around market average or above it in terms of sentiment. Something's happening. Then go do your research on those kind of projects, because that's where Polkadot. And that, to your point, you want to get into it when it is suppressed like that. So definitely one to watch. Let's jump over to Cardano. The stablecoin JED launched, this of course in partnership with Cody, but it is confirmed, I should say. So could we see Cardano take a little bit of a run here with JED going live as a stablecoin? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's in the next few days, definitely it's possible. I mean, there are some good things with Cardano. I think it's going to be a good contender in the next bull run, but what still has me relatively worried here is just look at the last time we had a blue triangle on Cardano. Blue triangle right here. This was a big bull trap. A lot of people were bullish here, and then you just came right back down. And to really fulfill the bubble pop pattern, you got to come down a little bit more. So it makes me think, if the S&P 500 comes down more, if the NASDAQ comes down more, a lot of these altcoins will really bleed, especially if Bitcoin dominance rises on the next correction. A lot of these alts could get hit really hard. And, that's what I'm looking at right now. But I think ultimately middle to late this year, it's going to be an excellent buy opportunity. Even if this happened to be the bottom, I still think Bitcoin's probably going to outperform it for that time. Yeah. So maybe just buy Bitcoin now and then convert over to Cardano towards the end of the year. With the Fed still being hawkish, I just don't see, you know what I mean? And then if you look at I know a lot of people say it's kind of the same analysis, but they all kind of follow each other to a certain extent. Look at how kind of overheated it is on the 3 hour. Good curvature all the way up. That good curvature in the green, that could bring it all the way back down in the middle to, first, second week of February. So, yeah.
Yeah, and you have to look at kind of the historical right here. Cardano still is trading down quite low, but I mean, yeah, it could come back to that local low of 23 cents. If it does get into some of these resistance zones, I'm kind of with you, Evan, is that I'm waiting for Cardano. We do have it on our swing list this year to do some swing trades on Cardano. And I know the Cardano crowd is probably ecstatic about that we'll actually be talking about Cardano a little bit more. Here's a tweet by Cody. It says, it was up 8%, not by Cody, but Cody's trending up 8%. Again, this goes back to the whole point of Cody launching JED, DJED, on the aspect of a stablecoin going forward. I know we got a lot of questions coming in today, so we're going to have quite a few here, so stick around for those. And as I said, I'll promise there's something unique about Bitcoin that we'll showcase for you guys toward the end of the show. I want to jump over to Render, because Render made a big move here, and that is flipping their announcement going into the Render Foundation. So essentially, Render, the project, is now a foundation and fully open. You can kind of say, let me just kind of read what they said here for the podcast people that are listening. Today, we're excited to announce the Render Network Foundation, a new non-for-profit dedicated to maintaining the core Render Network protocol and growing its community and ecosystem. And then the network repos and the Render brand to the foundation. They're moving all of that over, control. And it's a major step in decentralization and putting governance and control in the hands of the community. I like this in the sense because Render is that. They're a decentralized tool set that is going to be used in Web3 in a big, big way. I think this is a good strategic move for them overall when you look at fundamentals. But when you look at the charts, Evan, what do you think? Does Render, because I'm in and out of Render often, it's one of our big bag tokens. What are your thoughts on it right now? Just did a big trade on that one too here a couple days ago.
Let's take a look. So let me find Render here. We got it. We should have it up here. Oh yeah. So on Render, the thing I'm really looking for a potential top here is kind of this pattern. See the next 2-day kind of red dot. If you look, blue triangle here, green dot, and then red dot, it wouldn't surprise me. Like we were talking about, the potential jump to 24, 25K for Bitcoin in the next week. It would, this one seems more likely than a few others that it could jump up a little bit more, maybe to $1, maybe. That's what I'm looking at right there. The other things that would kind of give me a potential top here, I mean, we're already up over 100%. Let's be realistic. It's probably going to come down at some point. 4-hour money flow crossover into the red, 3-hour money flow crossover into the red. Look at that curvature. You're kind of just playing that pattern now. I mean, maybe it could be a correction not as bad for some of these. This is only a 20%, maybe only come down like 20%, most bullish possible case. But I kind of think it wants to repeat this pattern and potentially come down farther here. Some of these could be different than others and, hold up a little bit better based on fundamentals. But if you just look at the general pattern of this, like on the 2-day, blue triangle down, blue triangle down, blue triangle down. It doesn't catch the exact tops, but it would be that kind of general trajectory. And then maybe you come down to like 30 cents, 25 cents, or maybe make a double bottom middle to later this year. That's a really good place to get in. I mean, the money flow does look kind of good on this. So this looks better in some other things, but it is a smaller cap, so it's going to be riskier. But yeah, if you're somebody who really wants to get in early, you're planning to hold this for a few years, probably not a terrible place to get in, but I would still be waiting some months. So yeah.
Yeah, Render, I mean, we had a big run on this one. This was in our portfolio bag that we did on January 6th, which was kind of our adjustment for the year and getting into it. And this was our run right here. Now, we ended up making a trade on that one, selling out. It was right at 85 cents. And then it clipped above right up here to 88. So, and of course, now we're seeing a little bit of adjustment here. This is on the 4-hour. But the point is that this had a good run. Don't be afraid to take profits. This is a thing we talk about all the time, guys. Get the profits. Yeah, you're not going to catch the top, but the good thing is, even if you sell after you see a bump and you see a little bit of a decline down, which is what happened right here, where we saw the 85 and then it just literally kind of bottomed out back down to 77. It might have been a good move to jump back in at that time with this, kind of this volatility that we're seeing there, for sure. But it is an active one, and we're watching it. This is one that's in our bag. We're rotating it in and out. I like it long term as well, but to Evan's point, if it gets back into another depressed zone, I would go back in and just gobble up as much as I could on Render. And if you look at the announcements, just the iPad Pro thing, this of course was a big deal. We showed this, now Render operating within it, and I think that is going to be another big announcements, obviously to the fact that they've done, the new foundation. So good stuff for them. Let's go over to Audius real quick. Audius is now available to integrate with Snapchat. And again, these are fundamental elements that usually cause price movement. This is one of the tokens that is in our metaverse index for the CPI. It has been a little bit slow and lethargic. It hasn't seen some big runs. We saw a little bit of a run in this last little punch. But what are your thoughts on Audius?
Yeah, so let's take a look here. So yeah, it's a lot of that same like trajectory here. I mean, if you look at blue triangle, green dot, a lot of things still look like April. I know it's like how a lot of the market looks, but they do follow one another. And if you look at there, up, blue triangle there. The thing that's a little bit more promising here is coming into the green. Now, a lot of times in the bear markets, it just rolls over. It's a big, like we know we're going to have a correction. We came up almost 200% here. It's like, how much do you correct? Do you correct down to maybe just 20 cents and then continue forward, go into, and then do better and gradually come up in 2023? Maybe. Or do you just roll over, big bull trap, make a lower low at maybe 10 cents in a few months, middle to end of this year, then start to recover? I would be more cautious, more looking to wait a little bit. And then I would say, at least see what happens with the Fed into February. Hopefully we could come down a little bit. I mean, you kind of want this to come down at least to maybe 20 cents to get a better buying opportunity. You're only missing out 70% of gains rather than 200% of gains there. You know what I mean? That's the big place I would be looking at there. And then, just looking at this general pattern here, probably best case scenario, what I think when you have the money flow crossover here, your best case scenario for February is probably going to be like we were talking about in render, 20%. I mean, we're already 20% down. It would be probably 20% down from money flow crossover. So probably 20% down from a little lower where we are right now. That's probably your best case scenario for February, I think around 20 cents at some point, and then continuing forward. So a lot of caution here. And yeah.
This is something that we're taking a position on that's a little bit contrarian around Web3 projects. And one thing I've mentioned here on the show and over on Metaverse Insider, our other show, is that I think Web3 might be disconnecting from the rest of the altcoins, and Audius I would put in the Web3 crowd. If you look at the 1 year, and this is their 1 year, and this was back up here when we saw Audius clipping at 41 cents. And of course, right now it's it's stabilized around 28, but it's hitting some of these zones. My question is, and reason being, is we're seeing a lot of activity early this year around Web3 development, integration into a lot of social apps. We're going to start, I feel 23 could be a breakout year. It's not going to be the kind of that bell curve adoption year for Web3, but I think we're going to see some very significant breakouts. So like their partnership with Snapchat, I feel like Audius may be in a position where they're going to start to cycle. I don't know that Audius, I think the bottom is in, and I think they're in a position now where they may see some moves. Yeah, going forward. Speaking of whether or not the bottom is in, Solana, which we had Tim Warren on talking about this around the $8 mark. In fact, he pegged the $8 mark when we did the show, and that was back in early January. No, it was actually December 30th. Because we were looking at, is this the bottom? Is it an opportunity? Solana made a run. Where do you think Solana is holding now?
Yeah, Solana is like one of those that just went crazy, like biggest short squeeze of a lifetime for kind of this. The thing I'm concerned about, blue triangle, green dot, red dot right there, just like April, there's so many similarities. And you came up so much. You got the red dot right now. It just confirmed here on your 2-day. Even if we did bottom out, let's say, a lot of times the market likes to give you double bottoms or something. You know what I mean? It likes to play with you a little bit. And Solana, obviously with FTX going down, there's, a lot of doubt and a lot of possibilities of this coming even lower, especially if you do curve down. What I kind of think, I know Solana fans don't like this, but mid to late 2023, there still is a strong case for $3, especially if it plays out like this area the last time the 2-day looked at this. Looked like this. And then the fact that you confirm the red dot makes it even stronger. For more of the short term, now we have the 5-hour about to cross over into the red right here. If you look at most of the times throughout this environment, you crossed from green to red. I mean, these are big corrections, 73 right there. Even right here, this would be more of a, better case scenario, 43% drop down for a correction. I mean, this is a very volatile thing, down to $13 at some point in February for a potential good buying opportunity. I wouldn't buy there. I'd wait longer just because Bitcoin dominance looks so good, just because I think Bitcoin will outperform it for many months from now. But that's the main thing I'm looking at right there. So,
That's cool.
it would be, it would be kind of a shame if you got in real low and didn't take anything up here.
Yeah, you got to get some off the table. And this is a trade that I'm in right now. I'm probably going to exit the trade because I feel like we're starting to see some movements here. There is some sentiment data starting to point into your point, into that direction. One good thing that may flip it is this news here talking about the dApp store. And this was, we've talked about this earlier in the week. By the way, we're going to be doing a 3 o'clock live for you guys today on Solana and the dApp store, why this is so important and what this might look like. But there are some advantages, and obviously it's going to live on Arweave, the ecosystem there, which is something we've talked about before here, as we like Arweave as well. So I would agree with you. I think it's just in a very interesting spot right now for Solana. Helium, doing an event here in Miami. They are moving quick in the 5G aspect. Likelihood of could we see some major potentials for Helium starting to grow? Because we did see it fall off a little bit here last week. We were pointing at that going down. Helium, in fact, did. Where do you see Helium right now?
Yeah, let's take a look here. So Helium, let's find right here. Yeah. So just like a lot of these other ones, the 2-day and 3-day here look a lot with the blue triangles, trend reversals here, a lot like April. And if you look at these RSIs too, let me zoom in here, it's starting to really split apart here. Now, I'm not saying you can't come up a little bit higher, maybe make a higher high before February, but it does seem like you're going to have at least some type of decent correction here. Had your jump up, and even on the 3-day here, now we're getting a blue triangle. This is the first time ever on this chart. So that's indicative. These mean trend reversals, indicative of a trend reversal here. RSI is starting to curve back down. The next red dot here could bring us down quite a bit. I mean, you could make a double bottom pattern. You could be boring for a while, boring bearish for a while. And then if you look at more short term, lower time frames such as the 5-hour here, I mean, look at theoretically in this environment, every time we cross from green to red here, these are big drops. It gets boring, could be boring for a while, then you drop down 70%. So this is known to have, altcoins like these are known to have big drops down. 40% down to bring you there, and then if you come down to 60%, that's down to $1. And this could be slower into middle to late this year for a great buying opportunity. I don't think this is the worst time to get in, but I think there will be better times to get in, especially on Helium versus Bitcoin, in my opinion. I think Bitcoin will outperform in many months.
Yeah, I think I was looking at the chart zone we had looked at for sentiment. It was trending. It continues to be on a downtrend right now, so we are watching this one a little bit closer as well. Okay, wrapping up Helium, I think that's pretty much it on that. We're going to get to our poll, and let's take a look at what that is, and we'll grab some questions here. What will happen first? Bitcoin very split here, 24K or 20K. Most people pointing to 20K as the number. So interesting, huh? What are your thoughts there? You like that? You like that poll?
Yeah, I think the poll is like the same odds of what's actually going to happen. It's hard, probably a little bit more of an edge I would give to 20K first, but there's a decent probability to have a little leg up in the next 5 days before Powell speaks to 24K.
Yeah.
Hard to say. I mean, they got it last week. The audience got it wrong, like I got it wrong. And we were thinking 19K before 23K. Maybe this week they'll get it right. That would make a little bit more sense, but it's tough to say. There's more of a confidence level that we won't get above, 25K before we come back to 19K. I think that would be a much higher confidence I would have. 19K or 25K is what I would be more willing
1925. Okay.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Just as a reminder, guys, get into the Diamond Circle. One thing we are in the process of doing is, and you guys know this, we're flipping this over to Substack. And the way it's going to work is you'll be able to get into the Diamond Circle, still coming to Paul Barron Network. It'll flip you down to Substack. But you're going to have a chance to get into some new areas within it. We'll still have all of our free content, but much more frequent. So lots of things in there that we'll have. This is a good example of, a little bit of a deeper dive that we're doing over on Substack. For our Diamond Circle members, you of course will catch, and instead of putting up all of our videos over there, what I'm doing is I'm selecting the video that I think is the most valuable for you guys. And then we do these things right here, which is in our inside our podcast. So you'll actually see live chart analysis that we're doing. This was a recovery. You can actually watch these out there. Some of these are to get into the paid version, but most of these are free. So make sure if you're not over on the Diamond Circle, get involved because your email will eventually go over there. Let's take a few questions and get into that. We've got Akash says, which website are you using to DCA? Okay, I'm assuming he's talking about where we are trading for dollar cost averaging. If you're buying Bitcoin right now, if you're in the US, I'll tell you the ones I use, and you'd be surprised probably, but I use Coinbase and also use Gemini still. Binance US, I'm still kind of in and out of, but those are the ones. Obviously, if you're outside the US, there's, you've got a plethora of selections out there. What's your number one trading platform right now?
Right now, Coinbase. I have the membership where, I forget what it's called, Coinbase One, I think, where you pay, I think it's $20
Prime.
a month, no fee. So,
yeah, it's Prime, but it's only up to 10K, for a trade. You can really? Once you go over 10K, then they charge you again. Okay. Which is anyway. I got to talk to Brian about that. We got to get that going.
I got misled there. Yeah.
It's $40 a month to do that too. But I mean, you end up saving that if you make a trade of that amount. You're going to save that. There's some other benefits to it, but I'm not selling Coinbase today. But it is something. Will Bitcoin bottom down around 10 to 7K? This is your point. This is coming in from Hector. You think it's going to bottom in the lower ranges if we don't see a 25 bump?
Yeah, I think if we see a fierce rejection from here, Fed seems hawkish, we go into a recession, things continue to go down with the S&P 500, the NASDAQ, I think there is a likelihood we could bottom out around the 500 weekly moving average. That would probably be around 12K by the time it happens. It's at 11K right now. 10 to 7K is less likely, but if things get really ugly, that is in the cards. Yes.
Yeah, it's there's a lot there. I think the key here is around many of these. I still believe, that when we see these kinds of initiatives, it's all based on market sentiment, and because of whether it's Fed-driven, project movement, some kind of issue that's occurring, it all flows into price action. And then you can look at how those charts kind of respond to it. Couple of guys on here. This comes from Dre Day. Says one of the biggest factors to consider is that this pump does not have all the bad actors that got taken out. So, I mean, I guess that's true. I think we still have some contagion effects, obviously, with GBTC, what's happening with Genesis now in bankruptcy, even though we didn't really see much movement. So it's not like an FTX, but if we do see a scenario where, Digital Currency Group does a tender offer on GBTC, that, in my opinion, would be very interesting as to how the market would respond to that.
Yeah, we still have to worry about Tether, stable coins that are showing some, some concerns. Yeah. So there still are some bad actors, I will say.
Yeah. Bird Flu comes in and he says, bears are still in disbelief. And I'm kind of on the fence right now. I listened to the bulls and the ones that I've had on the show here recently. They give compelling evidence, especially around the macroeconomics. Then I look at, there's also compelling evidence on the alternative side. In fact, I just did a post on Substack this morning just about this very thing, and it was analyzing a whole lot of things. We looked at sentiment, we looked at Macro Alf and what he's seeing on his more bullish position or bearish position, and then even Dr. Jeff Ross from Vailshire Capitals, we looked at his bullish position. So it's a very interesting, and you have to kind of take all that stuff in and kind of look to it. Remember, FOMC is just around the corner. We will see some movement, before that.
The thing that's interesting is 2021, obviously all the bears got wrecked. 2022, all the bulls got wrecked. See what 2023 brings. I think it'll be a little bit more choppy, both sides kind of
in and out.
If it's more accumulation phase like 2015. So.
Yeah, very, very cool. Last question here. Thoughts on Gala? Kenny Williams comes in. Kenny, they're a full disclosure. They're a channel partner for us, but we do. Gala was off my list in the beginning of the year, and when I say off my list of tokens that I'm trading in and out of, I put them back on my high risk list for token trades. But when I look at Gala as a company, I look at some of the things that they've done so far just this year. Big announcements on film with The Rock and Wahlberg. But also the tokenomics, they're attempting to try to move that needle a little bit more. So it feels to me as though there's some fundamental changes starting to occur. It's very early, so I anticipate some more activity coming for there. Let's see. Rocky Bobby says there's the problem with Cardano. This is true. The problem with Cardano is that the ADA army is more active on Twitter polls and their own chain. That is true. If you put up a Twitter poll and put Cardano in it, it doesn't matter. It could be, Jesus. Cardano's winning that poll. It is a true thing for sure. Hey, Evan, it's always fun chatting with you and diving into the altcoins. Thanks for stopping in today. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Paul. Have a good one.
All right. You guys are tuned in right now. Make sure and jump into the Diamond Circle. Like I said, lots of changes. We're getting ready to transition into Substack for the Diamond Circle. You'll still be able to get into CPI and some of those things, but we're adding more premium content for the Diamond Circle. That was the problem that we had utilizing the tools that we have had in the past. That has completely changed now. So make sure and get into it. It is a free newsletter, and it's very easy. We drop a lot more content in there than we used to, so it is really worth it to get in now. If you guys are not following me, get out there on Twitter @Paul Barron. We'll catch you next time right here on Tech Bath.